I would now call upon Assistant Professor Aishwarya Patil ma'am to introduce to our next speaker, Dr. K. Bhanu Prakash sir. Over to you, Aishwarya ma'am.
Good afternoon to everyone present here. I would like to invite you all and introduce to our next speaker for the day, Dr. K. Bhanuprakash sir. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Sir has completed his MCom in specialization in direct taxes and MIS, MPhil specialization in turnaround management finance. Sir has completed his doctorate from Acharya Nagarjuna University, Andhra Pradesh. He is a professor and CFO. Sir is also a professional member of ICSB, Washington, D.C., United States. Sir is also a project coordinator of ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Science Research of major and minor projects. Also, Sir is empaneled examiner of statutory corporations and Government of India's consultant of artificial intelligence, analytics, and ERP SAP FICO, and Ministry of Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises advisor and analyst of Krishna District, Andhra Pradesh. Today's topic for conference by Sir is about artificial intelligence in abusement of drugs, the X mode of prescriptio. We all are very glad to have you, sir, with us today for today's conference. Thank you so much, and over to you, sir.
Bhanuprakash sir, please start your session.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now
Please.
I am online. Yeah.
Oh.
Guru Madhye Sthito Vishwam Vishwamadhye Sthito Guruhu Gurur Vishwam Nachanyosti Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Dedicated to my Gurus, Honorable Vice Chancellor of TMV Lokamanya Tilak Law College, Professor KKSS Murthy Garu, distinguished professors, respected consultants, and the viewers of Zoom and YouTube. Very good afternoon to one and all. So now I can share my screen. Please share the screen now. Hello. Please
Yes, sir,
share.
you are audible. You are audible.
Yeah, but host disabled participant screen sharing, sir. So that is the reason.
No.
Sir, I have made you co-host. Please share the screen. I have made you co-host.
Okay. Artificial intelligence in abusement of drugs, the X mode of prescriptio is the theme of the one-day international seminar. We are in hyper dizzy era. Simply say artificial intelligence 2.0 humanoids. These humanoids emerged as a live wire and lifeline, changing the personal and professional space of human life. Alexa, Siri, Google, Joby, Knockout, MIHCM, per se, permit everywhere and touching the human lives as intelligent virtual assistants. The enterprise technologies are waning, and now we are in waxing dynamic technologies, hybrid cloud, AI 2.0, deep learning, machine learning. So these are all reshaped, redefined, and rewrite the concept of behavioral sciences simply. So human psychology and physiological behavior is one, it needs to be reshaped, redefined. And coming to the why I had taken AI in abusement of drugs ex modo prescriptio, I want to prescribe some of the models and modus operandi and modus vivendi. How can we mitigate and how can we reduce? So we can control, but we cannot in toto banning the drug addiction or drug use. In this scenario, I had taken this is the right platform, artificial intelligence, by taking deep learning and machine learning applications. I had taken around 2000 plus respondents, and based on that, we developed one sensitivity scenario analysis. So based on that, the emergent findings will be discussed later on. So here you see, so artificial intelligence now, the need is everywhere, every corner, every sphere of human life. We are with artificial intelligence. So that is the reason the exponential growth of AI by 54% year on year and forecasting of 22.6 billion. $54 54% year on year and forecasting of 22.6 billion US dollars, even in midst of the pandemic COVID, promisingly send signals to human society that AI is always on and always me for the welfare, wellness, and well-being of human race, even at times of need, epidemics, and pandemics. So drug abusement is an epidemic. Yes, you see there. So global artificial intelligence in medicine market by geography, Latin America, North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific we had taken into consideration. So Asia Pacific exhibit 55% during 2018 to 2025. This is the artificial intelligence empowered medicine market, global AI empowered medicine market. So it will reach to 1434 million US dollars by 2024 from 259 million in 2019 at a CAGR of 40.8% during the forecast period, that is 2019 to 2024. Why the AI growth in drug discovery market is primarily driven? What are the factors influencing? So growing number of cross-industry collaborations first and partnerships, increasing need to control drug discovery and development costs, reduce overall cost taken in this process, rising adoption of cloud-based applications, especially hybrid cloud. Now we are in hybrid cloud and services. And lastly, the impending patent expiry of blockbuster drugs. This is very, very important. The impending patent expiry of blockbuster drugs. These are all the imperatives and imminent for the growth of AI in drug discovery market. So the prominent players in this global AI drug discovery market include IBM, Microsoft, and so most of the players are in USA. Next, coming to this. So we are talking about first, what is a drug? This is the term rooted from French language. It means dry. So medicinal plants are preserved in dry barrels. That's what we call the drug. The basis of the term drug is French, and The medicinal plants are preserved in barrels, bottles. So that is the reason it is drug. So in medicinal language, we can say that it's a substance and it affects the physiological body when ingested or otherwise introduced into the body. When ingested or introduced into the body, that is the medical terminology. Now we are talking about the narcotic drugs. So these are all the substances that modifies the consumer perception. What about your perception? What about your behavior and cognition, mood, and the motor functioning also? These are all impacting. Yes, more than 3.5 million people globally suffering from drug disorder, and illicit trafficking of drugs is becoming an issue, including India. This is the statement given by World Health Organization. The drug recognition expert, what we call law enforcement officer, FAO, defined some drugs affects the CNS, central nervous system, slow down the operations of the brain and body. So alcohol, barbiturates, anti-anxiety, tranquilizers, Valium, Librium, Prozac, Thorazine, these are all. And many other antidepressants, Zolofit, Paxil, these will come under CNS, central nervous system depressants. Second, central nervous system stimulants. So these accelerate the heart rate and elevate the blood pressure and speed up or overstimulate the body. So for example, cocaine and amphetamines, methamphetamine, these will come under CNS stimulants, the second category. Third category, hallucinogens. So these cause the user to perceive things differently, variety. That means than actually are. PO type, MDMA, methylene dioxy, methamphetamine, these will come under hallucinogens. The fourth one, dissociative anesthetics. So these, we use these drugs in cutting off or disassociating the brain's perception of the pain. I don't want to feel any sort of pain. Then at times of operations, leg injury, operations, these are all prescribed by the physician. Next, narcotic analgesics. So these relieve pain, induce euphoria, and create mood changes in the user. Opium, heroin, morphine, oxycontin, these will come under narcotic analgesics. Next, inhalants. Usually from India Today survey, I went through maximum number of users are children, inhalants. Yes, I will discuss later on inhalants. Yes, these are all changing the mind, altering the mind, and plastic cement, paint, and paint thinners, hairsprays, various anesthetic gases. These will come under inhalants. And next, cannabis. So delta 9, cannabis is come under delta 9. So tetrahydrocannabinol, these will come under. So these are all the 7 broad categories. Yes, here you see this is the chemical structure of opioid, heroin. This is the chemical structure. And we see golden crescent and golden triangles. Yeah, golden triangle. This is the name given by the CIA, Central Investigation Agency. Yeah, Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar. These will come under. These are all the countries exporting cocaine and heroin to the rest of the world. More than 50%. They are exporting. Next, golden crescent. So largest opium producing area, that is Afghanistan. Afghanistan is the largest opium producing area. So Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran, these 3 will come under golden crescent area. Yes, golden triangle area and golden
Basically,
triangle area. These are all, yeah, heroin. And then next you see, these are all the facts. Heroin, you see 2000, yeah, and very minimum usage of heroin. Now 2016, maximum extent heroin. Simply, you see 22.8 reported current alcohol, 13.8 binge drinking, 3.4 heavy drinking. Yes, these are all the facts. So in USA, these are all the facts. 12th grade, 1 in 16, they are using marijuana on a daily basis. 1 in 8, nicotine they are using, smoke balls or something. 23.5%, even 8th graders. So children, especially below teenage, yes, 1 in 4, 12th graders, yes, regular marijuana. So these are all the knowing facts as per WHO and American Addiction Centers report. Next, coming to high use of, first we see some drugs are very useful, and I don't want to say that we are against to take the drugs, but what I said earlier, ex modo prescriptio, that means some drugs are prescribed by the physician and you are rights to take that. Ex modo prescriptio, at times of leg injury, so operations, at times of anesthesia, simply it will also come under the drug. So here you see withdrawal, safety, overuse, cognition, suicide, addiction. These are all the risks and limitations by using benzodiazepine. This is the drug. Yes, this is the drug. If you use that, what happened first? 28% have withdrawal symptoms and 27% relapse to benzo reuse. Second, 80% of greater risk of hip fracture when used less than 1 month, greater risk. Overuse, yes, and cognition, amnesia, cognitive impairment. Higher the impairment, you can use it much and more. Suicidal impact is also there. 2 into greater risk of suicidal behavior. If you use this, these are all the perils by using benzodiazepine without the prescription of medical practitioner. Addiction. Yes, coming to, so high use of illicit drugs in India. This is the report given by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India and All India Institute of Medical Sciences. You see opiates worldwide 0.70, 0.46. What about India? 2.06%. They are using opiates, heroin, cocaine, cannabis. Next 3.9. So percentage is less. Second point. ATS. So this is also less. And cocaine, you see 0.11. High use of illicit drugs. So not prescribed by the physician nor the government. State-wise prevalence of current use of charas or ganja, you see prevalence rate is very high in these areas. Cursor, yes, Chhattisgarh area, and especially in northeastern states, Sikkim, Meghalaya, and in Maharashtra also, some parts of Maharashtra also, prevalence is very high. 1.3 crore people use ganja, illicit cannabis drugs in India. 1.3 crore, you see. The second diagram, you see opiates, heroin, especially 2.26 crore people, they are addicted to heroin. Yeah, husk, poppy husk, heroin, and pharmaceutical opiates like what I want to say here. So for sleeping pills, yeah, and Restil, and then Valium. These will come under this pharmaceutical opiates. So here in this diagram also, the prevalence rate is very high in northeastern states, Mizoram, Sikkim, yes, Arunachal Pradesh, and Rajasthan and Gujarat also, some parts. Yes, this is the survey given by All India Institute of Medical Sciences and DIU. So coming to laws against drugs in India. So Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985. So we can call it as NDPS Act. NDPS Act. So the main objective of the act is it prohibits a person the production, manufacturing, cultivation, possession, sale, purchasing, transport, storage, and or consumption of any narcotic drug or psychotropic substance. So clearly specified, clearly stated, you haven't any right to produce, to manufacture, to cultivate, to possess, even to possess, to sell, to purchase, to transport, or storage, or consume. Yes, this is the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. So further, in 1989, some amendments, moreover in 2001, 2014, 2019 and 2020, some significant amendments were included in this act. Second, Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940. So it regulates the import, manufacture and distribution of drugs in India. That means to ensure that the drugs and cosmetics sold in India are safe, effective, conform to state quality and standards. So what we are prescribing, these are all safe. So you can use it in India. Yeah, effective and conform to state quality standards. Yes, but it regulates the import. You haven't right to import, to manufacture and distribution of drugs. This is about Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 and later on amended 1955, 82, 95, 2019 and 20 also. These two, NDPS Act and DC Act 1940, these two controlling, regulating drugs in India. Coming to what about the situation in advanced economies? So in USA, in 1914, Harrison Narcotic Act was passed. What about the major objective of this act? Additive substances under the control of doctors only. So these substances will be supervised, monitored and controlled, prescribed by only doctors. This is the 1914. And then third, Federal Bureau of Narcotics was formed. So it supported the drug addiction research. So empirical research in the field of drug and pharmaceuticals, they encouraged. In 33, amphetamines were introduced in US. So tranquilizers, weight loss products hit the shelves and usually in the mass use of medicines. So weight loss, tranquilizers, these are all introduced into the market in 1933 in USA. After that, Durham-Humphrey Bill 1951. So it created a difference between prescription and non-prescription of drugs. So you can buy even a small tablet, this headache, paracetamol or something else in USA without a doctor prescription. So this is the Durham-Humphrey Bill. And 1960, so the Manufacturing Act, licensing is required, created quotas for classes of both natural and synthetic medicines. Natural means by plant, yes, and synthetic medicines, yeah, chemical structures. So next 70, Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act. So substances into 5 schedules. So required pharmaceutical companies to maintain a strict record keeping for certain types of medicines. You have to maintain a registry, book of accounts are needed to maintain the drugs, to even to maintain, even to sell. And lastly, in 1988, the Anti-Drug Abuse Act was enacted by the White House. Coordinate the government efforts to control drug abuse and medicine diversion. This is, in a nutshell, the act prescribing some sort of regulations to drug manufacturers. So coming to next, you see this. Now we will enter into the critical arena, that is artificial intelligence, and how artificial intelligence to some extent monitor, control and supervise the drug peddlers, drug addictors, so on and so forth. You see here, out of you see 17.1 million abused drug addicts, alcohol first, second tobacco, third prescription, fourth illegal drug. Here NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, it developed one model. Based on that model, we assessed the risk class. We predict the risk class. Here, they are adopting diagnostic analytics, prescriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and lastly, integrated analytics. Yes, the integrated analytics combines diagnostic, prescriptive, and predictive. So, NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, it developed one model, it devised, designed, and developed one model. That model prescribes simply how, in what manner. I will explain, just a matter of 5 minutes. You see here, there is image pool, caption pool, comment pool. There are 3 pools are there. And then LSTM stands for long short term memory. Yes, and CNN, convolutional neural networks. Convolutional neural networks. At first, they are collected data. Instagram, everyone knows pretty well about Instagram, but we don't know how it captures our behavior. Maybe Instagram, maybe WhatsApp, maybe Yahoo, maybe Google. So AI 2.0, it is nothing but behavioral analytics. Human behavioral analytics. It is a science. Image pool, they collected 3,198 responses from this Instagram, 3,198. So finally 911 were excluded and 2,287, that is the sample size, 2,287 individuals are targeted, whether they are drug abused, they are drug peddlers, they are using the drugs periodically, weekly, daily, so on and so forth. So simply it analyzed. Yes. Here images first captured while they are transmitting the images. So captured. Second, captions, how are you, good morning, good night. Yes, these type of messages it captured. And third, comments also. It's okay. Yes, these type of comments, so it has captured. So send to LSTM and CNN, long short term memory and CNN. So here it was processed. Yes, average vector. So how is the result? What about the final deliverable outcome? We shall discuss. Yeah, the results indicate that simply they identified alcohol risk. Second thing, identified tobacco, yeah, and prescription drug, illicit drug. Yes, they identified without physical presence, without telephonic conversations, simply with the authentication and assent of the respondents, collected the data from Instagram data. Yes, this is authenticated data and identified the alcohol risk, tobacco, nicotine, prescription drug and illegal drugs. Yes, so final outcomes are 2.6 million had both 21 point out of 17 million abused alcohol, illicit drugs. Yes, these are all the findings. So I used for this deep learning application. Yes. So we are all in amidst of COVID-19. Even though vaccine supplied by the government and some medical agencies, till today it is not reaching to the common minimum man. So that's why I can say that we are in amidst of COVID-19. These are all real-time scenarios from Oxford University, Lancet, and US, and All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Yes, you see, meanwhile, in coronavirus disease 19, fluvoxamine, this is the drug, actually, this is the drug. Yeah, this drug, simply fluvoxamine, here you see, this is the drug, red indicates the drug, and violet is the virus. Simply virus is violet color, in violet color. What happened if anyone is infected with the COVID-19, our DNA responds immediately and coagulation syndrome arises. What I want to say, coagulation syndrome, that means number of coagulations like cysts. Yes, these are all formed in our body, maybe brain tumors, maybe in heart. So that is the one of the symptoms of COVID, coagulation syndrome arises. If with the prescription of the medical doctors, if we use fluvoxamine, 90% of recovery they had seen. Very beautiful empirical evidence, 90%. Simply this drug stops the syndrome, coagulation syndrome, and works efficiently and efficaciously also. Automatically the patient recovered within the span of 4 days. That's why fluvoxamine and COVID-19. Yeah, and second thing, methamphetamine drug in COVID you see there. Yes, healthy lung is likewise, diseased lung is likewise, severe lung infection is likewise due to COVID, these three lungs. Yes, so it is an immune system. Methamphetamine works as an immune system, and so vaccine is required for protection from coronavirus infection and meth addiction. So you can use it. Yes, this is methamphetamine drug. usage at times of COVID. If any patient severely affected, these are all used by the medical doctors. Then the third one is nitazoxanide and tizoxanide. This is the chemical structure. So yeah, we had discussed, you see brain, yeah, frontal lobe, parietal lobe, and there are some lobes are there in brain. It affects these cytokinins, it affects the brain first. So suppresses, if you use nitazoxanide, suppresses inflammatory cytokinin storm, relax contracted airway muscles, in vitro broad spectrum antiviral activity. So we can use not for COVID, influenza A, B, chikungunya, and yellow virus, norovirus, rotavirus, so on and so forth. So these are all under clinical trials right now. These are all under clinical trials. Okay, by tomorrow or day after tomorrow, with the permission of WHO, more than 70% success rate, then only WHO gives permission to use that medication. These drugs, these are all. So some drugs, what we had observed earlier, opium, these are all impacting. And now these three, you see, these three, what happened? Fluvoxamine, and then methamphetamine, and then nitazoxanide, tizoxanide. These are all good. These are all good life survival drugs. What I want to say, life survival drugs. Then coming to next. So how do you? It's very tough to stop. How do you control? How do you mitigate the drug addiction? Yeah, how do you? So behavioral therapy, first one is, so diagnostic analytics, what I want to say, identifying troubling issues. Diagnosis, medical diagnosis is very important. So worry, anger, symptoms of self-image damage. Yeah, so first of all, you diagnose what sort of problems they are facing. Second, what are their emotions and beliefs? So mobile phones, nowadays, now we are in yappified era, everywhere application oriented systems. Yeah, your behavior easily we can catch by tapping your mobile phone, tapping of mobile phones. Yes, diagnostic analytics and prescriptive analytics, and then identify negative thinking. So what sort of, so physical or emotional, so what sort of negative thinking that drug user had. So reshaping, lastly, these are all prescriptive and predictive. Yes, reshaping negative thinking. So culminating, what I want to say, integrated analytics, the latest arena in analytics. Diagnostic, prescriptive and predictive we have, but now we enter into the culmination, the integration of these three, we will get integrated analysis. Cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most successful therapies to deal with the drug abuses. Okay, coming to next. What I want to say, mere humanoids. So we had predicted by using artificial intelligence 2.0, deep learning and Instagram applications, and then afterwards long short-term memory and coagulation systems, neural networks, use 2000 plus respondents. Behavior we had first diagnosed, then predicted, and yes. So I want to say mere humanoids cannot transform the inner and latent behavior of a human being. Every human is unique, very unique. So humanoids cannot transform, yeah, the inner and latent behavior of a human being. ensure the human in the loop, ensure human touch, and infuse human intelligence, then strategic societal preparedness and responsive plan, forward and backward integration strategies, very, very important. Forward and backward integration strategies adopted by the hospitals at times of COVID. So that is the success to flattening the curve. Yes, are imperatives and imminent to understand, sensitize and engage human capital empathetically amidst and after COVID-19 also. Simply share your love. So many meditation techniques are there. Yes, so on Likert scale, you can measure the happiness, happy hour, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, so Jazen and mindfulness, this chakra, Vipassana chakra, Buddhism, simply it is saying that, so everywhere you can find happiness. Happiness is your mantra. You are losing happiness. What does it mean? So some sort of disturbance is there. Find out. So diagnose what is that. What are the determinants? So what are the drivers? So in what dimension you can deal, treat, and make him as a complete human being without addicting to drugs. So inquiry of who am I means finding the source of I. When that is found, that which you seek is accomplished. So such sort of meditation, who am I meditation, yeah, and Buddhist Vipassana, mindfulness, resourcefulness, Jizeng, Reiki, so on and so forth. You can to some extent introduce to the drug uses, yes, and then afterwards slowly they will enjoy the path of happiness slowly, day by day. Yes, such sort of not exponential growth, day by day, operational wise. Yes, we have to expect from them. So believe you can, and you are halfway there. So I can do anything and everything. If you believe that, so as per Vivekananda, you are halfway there. You are reached halfway. So inhale and exhale. The positivity and happiness is everywhere. So happiness lies in making others happy, in forsaking self-interest to bring joy to others. To some extent, you can sacrifice your happiness for others also. So that is the essence of my session. So this session I am dedicated to my Guru, Dr. J. Chandraprasad Garu, for his affection, love. I learned much and more from him as an altruist, complete human being, and Murthy Garu, who had given me this wonderful opportunity to share. These are all my personal views and opinions collected from Oxford and then American Association and All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And from this is what I want to say, exposed to fact finding, and simply ex modo prescriptio also. Yes, thank you all viewers, listeners, for listening to me, sacrifice your valuable time for me. Thank you one and all. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. It was indeed thought-provoking for all of us. Now, we move forward to the session of paper presentations. I now request Ms. Shruti Das to initiate paper presentations.
Good afternoon, everyone. Paper presenters, I hope everybody is ready. Now we are starting with the paper presentation. The first presentation will come from Apurva Bhilare. Apurva Bhilare, are you present? And one more instruction to all the paper presenters that we will give a alarm system before 1 minute of your time completion, and once that 1 minute is done, no extra time will be provided to the presenter. Before every presenter, we will tell them how much time has been allotted to them for the presentation. Now, the first presenter, Apurva Bhilare. Can we have you, Apurva? Apurva,
Such a valuable speech. Hemant Mohan Kulkarni.
Apurva, are you present?
Thanks, sir, for your session. Sarji, your session was more inclined towards humanity, knowledge and resourceful. Once again, thanks. Kindly allow to unmute yourself. Hemant Mohan.
Ms. Apurva Bhilare, please unmute yourself.
చాలా ఆర్టికల్స్ వస్తాయి దీని మీద రాయొచ్చు ఒక్కొక్క మెడిసిన్ మీద ఒక్కొక్కటి రాయొచ్చు
Ms. Apurva. Apurva Bhilare, you can unmute yourself. Okay, you are not.
When there is no response, Shruti Das,
Okay,
when
yes,
there is
yes,
no response,
yes.
please go on to the another person. We should not
Okay,
wait this
now
much
I
time.
think no, sir. Thing is, the participants were not allowed to unmute themselves. Thus, I was speaking, but you couldn't hear me. But anyway, ma'am, am I supposed to share my screen or my paper, or should I right away start?
You can share. You can share your screen. Wait.
Or that is fine. I can just right away start presenting.
Okay, and you have 10 minutes time. Your time starts now.
Okay, that is fine. Welcome all of you. It was indeed a very thoughtful day, and it was great to listen to such experts for this entire day and gain insights on this particular topic. I am Assistant Professor Apurva Bhilare. I'm working as Assistant Professor in Department of Law and Governance in Vishwakarma University, Pune. And I am pursuing my doctoral studies in Savitribai Phule Pune University. And I have chosen this topic I am actually studying about the drug laws, and thus it was very interesting to listen the entire day. Now, quickly moving on to my paper, what I will be presenting today is in parts being already discussed today through various scholars and the guests that we have had. So the title of my paper is Matching Footsteps with International Regime for Control of Personal Drug Consumption. So today I will be basically talking about personal drug consumption only, and about the legal, the reaction of the legislature and the administration, and the reaction of the general public towards personal drug consumption. A lot has been discussed, especially in the morning when a guest of ours said that the addict is a prisoner himself. He has prisoned himself in that addiction, and that is actually something that I'm going to dwell upon today. So what I'm trying to do today is just give a background. So recently in last year 2020, we saw this entire sensational full-blown drama happening about this drug probe in Bollywood, about drug probe about, Bollywood using drugs and being dependent on drugs. Now that actually sensationalized the issue. It created a lot of hustle, but nevertheless, it did not create any awareness among the people, and rather tried to demonize this drug consumption and drug usage, and it tried to sensationalize rather than sensitize towards this issue. There is this film which, if we all today, which deals with the topic that we have been discussing today for the entire day. It's called Requiem for a Dream. It is directed by Danny Boyle. It released in 1996, and it talks about addiction and how it develops in that person and how a person gets addicted, and it talks about what happens inside the mind of an addict. It's a beautiful movie. It does at the end of that movie, it does empathizes us with the addicts. Now moving on to this, moving further in our discussion, I in my paper I've talked about different definitions, but which I will not go into very much detail because we've already discussed and have heard those in our earlier sessions also. Like, what is a drug? What is how it was evolved, from where it is derived, and what do we mean by that, and different definitions that have been given, right? Although I would like to take what is the definition of narcotic drugs, what are psychotropic substances. I will not spend a lot of time on that particularly. Now, what I would like we all to understand right now is what is drug. So we're talking about drug consumption, personal drug consumption. But when we're talking about consumption, there are basically three aspects of consumption. One is use, like just using it. One is abusing it. And then the third stage of this consumption is addiction. So like using is concerned, consuming once or twice for recreational purpose is concerned, that always happens. Like people indulge into social drinking, or occasionally using that sedatives for a recreational purpose. Now, since in India, different types of these sedative substances have cultural and mythological basis to it, like bhang, somrasa, even cannabis has a lot of medicinal qualities, and they have been an inherent part of Indian culture and Indian mythological stories as well. So it was never considered to be devilish earlier, right? But all of it happened after this acts and all of these enactments happened. So usage of this was never alien to us. Using of these substances, using of what we can say, the drugs which alter our mind, that has always been a part of our culture and our, it's been here. So using it is one part. It can be to, just get away from pain, for recreation, to just evolve from leave your individuality and, feel that ecstasy or euphoria and all of that. Once or twice using it is one part. Then further, there is excess usage of that. Now, when people use that more and more, the usage is excessive, okay? That amounts to abuse. Now, World Health Organization has defined abuse as maladaptive pattern of use. What is maladaptive? Because people do not, even though they can understand the adverse physical, social, psychological, occupational effects, still they continue using that drug, right? Now, that is abuse. But still, it does not mean that the person who is abusing is addicted to it, right? So abuse is one thing. Still, it doesn't mean that the person has become addicted towards that. Now, addiction is the later, the next advanced step of abuse, which says that, which it kind of represents dependency and compulsive drug seeking behavior. And they can then the person who's become addicted to that substance, he can go to any lengths and breadths to get that substance, can do anything for that. Now that is an aggravated form of abuse. Yes, addict is abuse, but every abuse cannot be addiction. So why I'm trying to define these stages is that is very necessary for us to deal with this problem of personal consumption. Use, abuse, and then the aggravated form is addiction. Now, as far as addiction is concerned, addiction has been specifically defined as one of the mental illness in the Mental Health Care Act 2017 as well. So it is defined as a mental illness. And of course, every person does not get addicted. Whenever a person consumes narcotic drug, it is not necessary that every person will get addicted to it. It depends on certain psychological, social, economical, cultural disorganization of that person, which leads him to addiction. Thus, addiction is basically a clinical phenomenon, right? Whereas abuse, what is abuse? What is excessive usage of drugs? You should take care of your family. You should pay attention. It has a lot of moral basis, right? So abuse is a socially constructed terminology, whereas addiction is a clinical terminology. It deals with mental illness. And thus it is like kind of disease that your brain has, and thus it needs to be treated. Now, moving on to the legal framework, to the legislative reaction to this personal drug consumption. First of all, Article 47 of the Constitution of India deals with the prohibition of drugs, and NDPS Act that we've been dealing with today, it deals with the narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances. Now,
Last 1 minute.
Only 1 minute left?
Yes, please summarize it in 1
Yes.
minute.
So I would just like to quickly summarize that the NDPS Act does not make any distinction between use, abuse, and consumption. Use, abuse, and addiction, and treats everyone on equal footing, and 64A and treats everyone on equal footing, and rather criminalizes that under Section 27. Now, under Section 64A, it says that one who would volunteer for treatment, then their punishment would be done away. But then those who are using it occasionally do not need any treatment. So what is happening because of these provisions is, it is just providing a blanket provision for treatment, and there is no categorization of low risk persons, high risk persons who need that treatment actually. Thus, it is creating the load on the treatment mechanism as well, on one hand. And on the other hand, there are so many people using cannabis, around 300, and many of our scholars have quoted the numbers. Now, if there are such high use of addicts, then there's no the point in it's not, the law is not proving to be deterrent in any form, right? So thus it's like a paradox where the law is actually not useful. Yeah. Okay, so I will just conclude my suggestions. My suggestions for this paper was that, as far as Article 47 is concerned, it talks about prohibition. A transformative constitutional approach should be taken towards interpreting Article 47. There should be proper distinction about use, abuse, and addiction in NDPS Act. Further, addiction should be decriminalized, and there has to be mechanism for evidence-based treatment. Those who need treatment, they should be provided with that treatment. Different people need different treatments. Therefore, there should be devising of proper treatments as well. And there are many countries which have liberalized the drugs, usage of drugs, herb-based drugs and synthetic drugs. And they have, especially Portugal model, people are going to Portugal and studying Portugal model. So that research have to be conducted in India as well. And thus we have to, there are almost 10-15 countries in the world which have liberalized their drug policies. And thus we, in the light of that, we need to change our perspective as well and move from prohibition to liberalization.
Out of going
Yes,
ahead
thank
of
you.
time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your great presentation. Now the next presenter is Rifat Khan. Rifat Khan, are you present? Rifat Khan? Okay, I think Rifat Khan has unmuted himself.
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So,
Please, you have 10 minutes and your time starts now.
okay. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can share your screen. I have made you co-host.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rifat Khan. I'm scholar at Lovely Professional University. At the outset, I would like to thank you all for giving me an opportunity to participate in this conference. The title for my paper is Drug Control Policy in India, a Socio-Legal Analysis. I would like to take you down the slides very quickly because of the time constraint. So the abstract for my paper is it's basically to understand the legal framework for drug control and analysis of NDPS Act, as we know that the object, provisions, and scope of the law are either presented incorrectly or in a very simplistic way and doesn't capture the complexity of drug control policies. So to this end, the Apex Code decisions will be taken into account. I don't need to take you to the introduction of this because all the participants have given you the data, how explosive the situation is, how growing internationally as drug abuse is an international growing issues, and how the estimates about the prevalence of drug use are, and the statistics related to death and all that has been quoted in the earlier papers as well. So coming straight to the legal framework for drug control in India. So as we all know that international commitments and constitutional mandate just compels us to enact NDPS Act. We know that international conventions of 1961, 71, 88, and Article 47 of our constitution is there. So international conventions basically has two objectives: to ensure availability of narcotics and psychotropic substances for medical and scientific use, and restrict their availability and use for non-medicinal and non-scientific purposes. So this purpose is actually ruminated in NDPS Act of 1986. So we have enacted a policy of prohibition, control, and regulation that is provided in section 8 of the that is reflected in section 8 of the NDPS Act itself, and it provides these two rules, and there are two exceptions to the general rule where it's like carried out for medicinal and scientific purposes. We criminalize production, manufacture, possession, sale online and offline as the 2019 amendment order provides. It prohibits sale online as well now. So it's carried out for medical purposes and scientific purposes, and the manner and extent, if there is authorization or license that permits, so then it's in accordance with the terms and conditions of the license. Then, as we know, the policy and the purpose of NDPS Act is that medicinal use of drugs is permitted. So I don't want you to take through what narcotics and psychotropic substances and pharmaceutical drugs are, because we have, I think we have dealt with it earlier also. So medicinal use of drugs is permitted. It's not the drug, but the related activities. Because if we look at the position, we say it's not question about the position of drugs, simplistic, but whether position is authorized and within the limits prescribed by the law. So these two stipulations are necessary to prove the legitimacy of a drug-related activity. So whether there is legality of the purpose for which drug is sought, and conformation with the standards and manner provided in the Act and other corresponding rules provided thereunder. And it was in Union of India and Sanjeev Deshpande, it was held that not only legitimate purpose can be enough to legitimize the activity. So both of these conditions are necessary actually to see whether the drug, this thing, activities. Then as we look down to the the various criminal the thing, whether it's a strict liability offense. We say that mens rea is not required, burden of proof as provided under NDPS Act. We all know that it's a very it's predominantly a penal statute, and we say that it's a strict liability statute. Strict liability, as we all know, means liability without fault as provided under Rayland versus Fletcher. And I don't need to go I don't need to go to Rayland versus Fletcher, because you all might be knowing it, that if something, it's like, there is no fault of the offender, then also he is liable. But that is not provided under the NDPS Act, because exceptions, it is very like this exception to Section 8 and other related activities, they're like central and state rules under Section 9 and 10 of the NDPS Act support that argument. And various cases in which, like, it was Alakram versus state and Ram Singh versus state, in which where cannabis plant was allegedly seized from the agricultural land belonging to the appellant. So in that case, Supreme Court held that it's not Supreme Court said that Alakram was, as prosecution could not show that he was an exclusive owner of the land where cannabis plant was found. And secondly, there was no evidence to prove that he was cultivated. So it's not a strict liability offense. And then mens rea is an essential ingredient of crimes, as we all know. So presumed mens rea is provided under Section 35. So it's not that mens rea is not needed in NDPS offenses. It is required, but mens rea is presumed. So in case of Mohanlal versus state, the court said that conscious mental state is necessary, and that is the reason for enacting Section 35 of the NDPS Act. And regarding the burden of proof, as we all know, the onus probandi as a very important rule of Evidence Act. We say that it's on, usually in criminal cases, it's on the prosecution. But in a case of the NDPS Act, Section 54 provides for the reverse burden of proof. So reverse burdens on the accused to prove that he has to produce a sufficient evidence to counter the prosecution's case of illegal possession. So it was held in Noor Aga versus State of Punjab in 2008 that accused in case of drug-related offenses is presumed guilty if accused cannot provide sufficient evidence to counter prosecution's case. And apart from that, they can raise in their defense the non-compliance of mandatory provisions which are held in 42 and Section 50 of the NDPS Act. Non-compliance of mandatory provisions can vitiate the trial. So that also can be raised in defense. So it doesn't mean that reverse burden of proof in NDPS cases divide people of their right to, they are like held accused. So in Tufan Singh versus State of Tamil Nadu, court held for fair trials it's necessary that they should be given this opportunity. And sentencing under NDPS, we know it's been predominantly penal. As I mean, if I take you back to 1986, as law stood then, the punishment for minimum of 10 years of rigorous imprisonment was there, and then prescribed various, and also for fine and all that. So, but there were two exceptions to it. So one was that offenses for involving cultivation of cannabis, where imprisonment was 5 years imprisonment and fine, and Section 27 of the NDPS Act, where prescription for 6 months and 6 months to 1 year of imprisonment and fine was there for consumption of drug, both consumption and for illegal possession of small quantity of drugs. But then this provision of, for personal use, they'll get the minimum punishment, and this what you call that, it's a provision which is for the beneficial provision of the act. This was not actually people did not get benefited from it. But then courts, because of some reasons, I'll come to that, but then the courts came to their rescue in Raju versus State of Kerala, in which a person was held with worth 25 rupees of drug in his possession. Then court said that just rupees 25 cannot be for sale and making profit. So then this provision was given effect. And Biran versus State also, then courts came to the rescue of the accused persons and gave relief to them in various cases. But then this provision was not actually this provision was not used because because of this. Just give me a second. this provision of Section 27 was not actually given effect because people thought if we admit that we are consumers, that means that it's like confessing that the confession is an
Ma'am,
offense.
just 1 minute left.
Okay, I'll just conclude it very fast. So then that's why it was not taken into consideration. So then in NDPS Act 2001, the personal use was done away with and extended protection was given. But then there was, imprisonment for up to 6 months and fine, and diversion for treatment was actually a very important provision which was introduced in this act. But then the purity versus total amount of drug, whether it is a pure drug content or the total amount with the drug content and the inert substance mixed with it, whether that should be counted, whether it's a small quantity or the commercial quantity, because it gives a range of punishments from small quantity. So then courts earlier they said no, it's the purity of the content. Then finally 2009 notification was there. I don't need to go into all these details. And then in 2020, Hira Singh versus Union of India, because 2014 amendment doesn't say anything about whether you should take the quantity of the like purity or the total amount into consideration. But then Hira Singh versus Union of India, the court said no, it's the total amount which should be taken into consideration. So NDPS, thus I can say that punishment under NDPS Act in 2004, it stood enhanced, and a small quantity involved, like it's now up to rigorous imprisonment 1 year, so which is a complete misturn in 2014 amendment. Then immunity and prosecution, yes, there are provisions for immunity, treatment and rehabilitation of the like users of drugs. But then in Shaji versus State and Fardeen Khan versus State, the court denied immunity to the applicant, and they did not fall under the
Ma'am,
definition
your
of
time is over.
Okay, ma'am, I'm just concluding it. So to conclude it, a drug control policy implies the notion that demand for drug stamped out permanently. In reality, success of current drug state of drug control is measured by number of seizures and arrests rather than trying to limit harm caused by drug use. And DPS provides treatment which is consistent with health and human rights standards, as we all know, but evidences like there are no repressive and this criminalization brings out pathologies, and the disparity challenge the notion of equality before law, and need to develop a strategy which is problem oriented rather than focusing on symptoms of the disease by placing considerable value on preventive measures that are independent of criminal justice system. One of the way can be reducing harm that users experience per unit consumption, as it is legitimacy for medical and scientific purposes cannot be underestimated. Thank you so very much for the patient hearing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I'll request Gauri Kala ma'am, Dr. Gauri Kala ma'am, to present her paper. Gauri Kala ma'am. Okay, ma'am, I'm making you co-host.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible now.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, one and all attending this international conference. Title of my paper is Drug Mechanism, Demand, Supply and its Remedy. My paper is an attempt to observe reason for increasing demand and supply of narcotic and psychotropic substances. And also this paper will cover and will also reflect the illicit drug trading's ill effects on the growth and development of the nation. I would like to share few real life incidents related to my paper. Instead of using sections and provisions and case laws, I would like to share with you all a real life incident which I had witnessed with this. So the one of the real life incidents is one lady from my contact was facing a great challenge, and she belongs to a very sophisticated, well-cultured and well-to-do family. But she was facing a great challenge as her son was involved in taking drugs, and the entire family tried to level their best to but they tired and they said it is no use, Then she came to me, discussed her problem and said, we all family members are suffering just because of him. And whenever we try to do counseling, whenever we try to attempt to do counseling, he starts fighting with us. And with that, what happens? By looking at his behavior, even we feel bad and we reply badly to him, and ultimately things get more worse. So I suggested them to visit or one of the professional counselors. Why I'm sharing this is generally we believe that the person who is involved into this activity is only required counseling, but this is not the correct way. Actually, in that case, when we, as a parent or as a guardian, when they want to tackle such problem, at the same time, their counseling is also required. So in this case, even the counseling of family member is must, so that they will understand how they have to deal with the situation. After counseling, and the result is amazing, after the counseling of the parents and the son both, they had observed that his thought pattern, his behavior, his physics, everything has been changed, and now he is completely out of it. So this is one of the real life incidents which I saw. The another incident I would like to share with you all is, basically this incident is commonly seen in Navi Mumbai. Like there are many people from like Nigerians and Filipinos. Generally, they work as a cricket coach or a football coach for a school-going boy, either at minimum cost or sometimes free of cost. And slowly they win the confidence of the parents and children. And then after some months or years, they arrange tournament out of country. By looking at that, parents, children, all are excited. They feel that it's a good opportunity for them. And to grab that opportunity, they just give permission to the children to go abroad for this tournament. And there the main game starts with this business of the drug flourishes. They initially they start giving the children drugs in a very small quantity initially, and later on the children get addicted to it. And from here, the business of selling drugs actually gets flourished. So ultimately, it affects for the growth and development of our nation too. Then another incident which I would like to share with you all is, even this incident you can see in a YouTube. There is a documentary based on this. There was two foreigners who has been arrested. They were traveling from Kathmandu to Delhi, and they were planning to travel Toronto. So they had been caught by NCB with hashish and cannabis with them. And after arresting, they once it has been proved that they are guilty of that offense, they were put into the Tihar jail. And that time, Kiran Bedi was taking care of the Tihar jail, and that time she was posted there. She was facing great challenge to tackle with this type of an accused. One fine day, one police officer suggested her, "Madam, there is a technique called as an Vipassana, through which we can control our, we can just observe our breathing, inhale and exhale." One of the speaker has also suggested this technique. So even there in the Vipassana, they can control their thoughts, they can control their, as they can control their thoughts, they can control their body, they can control their mind, and slowly they will come out of it. So by believing on that word, she had she took the permission from the central government, and it was a very risky job, but she still took a risk, and she conducted a Vipassana there, a meditation, just to concentrate on the breathing, and the result was amazing. Those who are the culprit of it, they themselves has revealed, and they themselves have said now they do not feel like consuming drugs, neither, and they are totally out of this business too. So these are the real life incidents which I had observed and I had shared with you all. There are few real life stories, like nowadays it is everyone knows. There are many other cases like shown in movies of Urta Punjab. Even in Sanju movie, they had shown how the Sanjay Dutt has been involved into it, and what are the difficulty he had faced. And Shouvik Chakravarti, Riya Chakravarti is very much known to everyone nowadays. Even Bharti Singh and her husband, Harish Limbachia, they had accepted consumption of that they are consuming ganja, cannabis, and 86 grams of drugs were seized from their Andheri residence. They were arrested by NCB. Then they later revealed the name of the drug peddlers. Even everyone knows about the Kangana Ranaut, a celebrity. Also, she had accepted that she's been forced to take a drug. She said that drugs flow like a water in this Bollywood, And she said like 99% of the celebrities are consuming drug, only 1% is not taking drugs. That is just because of their health concerns. Otherwise, 100% of the celebrities are taking, or Bollywood is into the drugs. Unfortunately, the demand and supply of drugs is increasing year by year. And because of that, because of this trade, even the money laundering, we can see the money laundering. Money laundering is the thing where the layering, placing, and integrations are the 3 steps for the money laundering. People, by earning money through this illegal trade, when they earn money through this illegal trade, they try to convert their money from black to white, and so they enter into the market. And with that, even it affects to the growth and development of the innocent and the hard-working businessmen, those who are really working for the growth and development of themselves as well as for the nation. It affects to them and not to the person, those who entered just for the money laundering. Then I would like to share with you all some statistics which has been given by India Today on 2nd of January 2021, whereas NCB has registered 30 cases and arrested over 90 people in Mumbai and Goa in the last 3 months. Then it has been shown that how the data has been increased, the consumption level and the arrest has been increased year by year. It has been registered that 260 in the year 2016, NCB registered 23 cases and arrested 20 people. And in 2017, they had registered 30 cases and arrested 38 people. Then in 2018, they had registered 25 cases and arrested 55 people. And in the year 2019, they had registered 35 cases and they had arrested 50 people. So with this statistical data, we can see how the ratio has been increasing year by year. Then if you see the Times of India, article given in the Times of India on 1st of January 2021, NCB has arrested 3 peddlers with synthetic drugs in Mumbai, Andheri and Kurla. Now, what is a synthetic drug? These are generally also called as a designer drug. These are created using man-made chemicals rather than natural ingredients. Their names are generally ecstasy, LSD, methamphetamine. This drug name has been discussed with our resource person also today. And this designer drug is a synthetic version of an illegal drug, and that was slightly altered to avoid having it classified as illegal. Even if you see the news release, given on 7th May 2014 by DEA News through synthetic drugs, it has been clearly mentioned that in the US, some 200 to 300 new designer drugs were identified between 2009 and 2014, and most of them manufactured in China. And if you see the report of this study by Recreational Drugs European Network 2013, it has been clearly mentioned that more than 650 new designer drugs have flooded into Europe in the past 10 years. Some contain chemicals that have still not have completely identified and whose effects on the human body and mind are still unknown. So these are the studies, statistical data, and some real life incidents which I have shared with you all. Now I would like to conclude my topic by saying that a country under the influence of narcotic drugs stands nowhere. The productive, high potential and skilled population's contribution for the growth and development of a country is the only way for self and nation's growth. One must say no to drugs. Shift in mind can shift in life. Transforming person from negative to positive will ultimately turn into productive work for the growth of nations. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I'll ask Dinesh Iyer to start his presentation. You just have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Please start.
Good morning to one and all. Today's theme that I've chosen is international drug control, and I look towards a pragmatic solution for the new era. There are about 270 million people, that is 5.5% of the global population, aged between 15 to 64 years, that are using psychoactive drugs. And this is from 2016 data, but more or less it's the same over the annual rate. More than 42 million years of healthy life, that is daily healthy life, have been attributed to drug use in 2017. That's about 1.3% of the global burden of the total disease. It is estimated that the worldwide, there are more than 11 million people who inject drugs of whom 1.4 million live with HIV and 5.6 with hepatitis C. Now, why do I quote these statistics is, we all know Vladimir Lenin, who gave and he identified that give me just one generation of youth and I'll transform the world. So that is the power that youth exercise in this world. But right now, the laws, the conventions, the treaties, and number of things that are beyond imagination and that we have heard just now are toothless. There are new ingenuities like dark web, bitcoins, barter exchanges that are posing new challenges to this arena. Legal jurisdictions are there, which are creating another problem. Like, does it come under the definition of criminal jurisdiction? The definitions, the very definition that should it be classified as a crime against humanity, the politically vested interests, all these things. Economies, there are countries like Afghanistan, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia. Just we recently heard about the Golden Triangle and the Crescent. Basically, all their economies have a huge chunk of contribution from the drugs. So that's the big problem. So what do we propose? At macro level, there are three basic features that we can tackle with. One is dynamic immunity theory. That is, we can bundle a bunch of simple approaches and reconfigure the existing setup in order to prevent the minds from getting affected. In management terms, there's something called business process reengineering, a management principle where the existing set of principles and economies are used to revamp the whole system or overhaul it. There is one more project that is called Princeton Project on Universal Jurisdiction. It advocates that there should be a universal jurisdiction to speak and deal with problems like drugs and war crimes. At micro level, we can have n number of solutions that have been already advocated by other luminaries, like counseling, individual as well as community counseling, workshops in order to create awareness, delineating the tag of mental doctor from psychiatrist, and making them more socially acceptable, advocating the tag knowledge and needs to be addressed and so on.
Please do not scribble on the slides. Anybody who is scribbling on the slides, do not scribble on the slides, the students. Please continue.
Yeah. So we need to encourage the media to play a pivotal role and positive role in hammering this message into the minds of the viewers. There needs to be monetary incentives for those people who are sustaining during the period of abstinence. There are n number of such solutions that we can promote and accept globally. There are a set of legal changes that we need to confront first of all. One is, drugs need to be defined as crimes against humanity and punishable like Middle East nations, like maybe the Sharia law. Jurisdictions. International criminal courts need to have jurisdictions in these cases. Recently, a Venezuelan court has categorically stated that drugs should be included in the definition as crimes against humanity. Our approach should be more or less proactive. The law actually chases the crime, and this gap needs to be reduced to such an extent where it is copable. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Financials, banking regulations need to be more aggressive, like FATF. HSBC has been supporting these drug cartels openly, and they just exit with just a simple apology. Doctors and scientists should be part of the conventions that we are speaking about, and not the politicians who have vested interests at heart while determining what is right and what is wrong. We need to rise above the individual level and need to address the global interest as in a good faith. Thank you so much.
Okay, next presentation will be by Jatin Cheda and Vishakha. So Jatin Cheda and Vishakha, you have the permission, you can start.
Ma'am, are we allowed to share our screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Jatin?
Good afternoon. I, Jatin
Yeah,
Shera,
just
PMB
wait a second.
second year
Wait a
LLB.
second. Jatin, wait a second. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Go to the first slide.
Yeah.
Yes, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
good afternoon. I, Jatin Shera, PMB second year LLB, and Ms. Vishakha Tanvi of second year MBA LLB present a paper on analysis of abuse disorder, treatment of drug addicts, and rehabilitation. In mid-2020, investigation into the death of a celebrity opened a can of worms on India's old problems of drug abuse and addictions. Misuse or drug abuse is illegal in almost all countries in the world. Even in India, there are adequate laws and legal procedural framework in place that prohibit misuse of drugs. Addictions affects the person's cognitive and behavioral functions, creating dependency and interferes with their ability to function. It also disturbs and damages family and society of addicts, while desperation may even push them into criminal activities. Some root causes of drug addiction are experimental use of recreational drugs out of curiosity to have a good time, peer pressure among the friends. For some, drug abuse begins with exposure to prescribed medications, particularly with opioids. Adverse psychosocial conditions push people to seek refuge and addictions to escape reality. Legal framework in India. Article 47 of the Constitution provides that the state shall endeavor to bring about prohibition of consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs which are injurious to health. India is also a signatory to 3 UN conventions relating to the subject. Convention on Narcotic Drugs, 1961, Convention on Psychotropic Substances, 1971, and Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances, 1988. In 1985, India enacted the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act, 1985, to make stringent provisions for regulation, control, and prevention of illicit trafficking, according to international NDPS conventions. In 2012, a national policy on NDPS set guidelines for control, reduction, and consumption of NDPS, as well as treatment, rehabilitation, and social reintegration of persons. The policy's main objective and focus is on de-addiction, and it outlines measures and standards for the same. Extent of drug and substance abuse in India. A first ever national survey was conducted in India by the National Drug Dependence Treatment Center, and it found that 3.1 crore persons used cannabis, of which 2.2 crore persons were found using illegal form of cannabis products like ganja and charas. 2.26 crore persons use opioids, which include opium, heroin, and a variety of pharmaceutical opioids. 1.18 crore persons use sedatives on non-medical and non-prescriptive time. Inhalants were found used by 0.7%, but of great concern is the prevalence of higher use amongst children than in adults. Categories of drugs such as cocaine, amphetamine type stimulants, and hallucinogens are used by a minuscule portion of the country's population. Over to you, Vishakha.
Thank you so much, Jatin. Now I shall be dealing with treatment. So basically there are various types of treatment for curing addiction, out of which I shall be dealing with 4 major types of treatment today, which are as follows. 1. Detoxification. So drug detoxification, also known as detox, is variously the intervention in case of a physical dependence to a drug, the process and experience of a withdrawal syndrome, and any of various treatments for acute drug overdose. 2. Contingency management. Contingency management is used to treat a wide variety of addictions, including alcohol, narcotics, tobacco, etc. Contingency management or CM therapy reinforces one's positive behavior by giving tangible rewards. This type of treatment has been used successfully to combat relapse, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse. Next, treatment with medication. So the medication plays a very important role in treating addiction when it is combined with behavioral therapies, as it reduces cravings and decreases addictive behavior. Some examples of medications which are FDA approved are methadone, dalciferam, acamprosate, etc. Next, therapeutic therapies. So therapeutic therapies are certainly one of the most important type of treatment, which includes various kinds of therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, rational emotive therapy, psychodynamic therapy, etc. Out of which, cognitive behavioral therapy helps in recognizing unhealthy behavioral patterns of individual and helps in coping up as it identifies negative, destructive, bad thoughts and replaces them with positive, objective, and more realistic thoughts by using strategies like role-playing, journaling, relaxation techniques, etc.
1 minute remaining.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Rehabilitation centers. So rehabilitation is process of restoring an individual to a normal life after imprisonment or addiction through activities like therapy, training, etc. Rehabilitation is essential for an addict in order to bring him back to his normal life by rebuilding it with the help of various therapies and medication. Now, there are specific centers where this rehabilitation is available, which are known as rehab or rehabilitation centers. These centers are the places where addicts are admitted and are treated with care, affection by several medical professionals, nurses, therapists, etc. Roles of rehabilitation centers. 1. It encompasses good habits and manners in drug addicts. 2. It teaches addicts to deal with deterioration. 3. Mutual support and motivation. 4th, and the foremost important, that is ethical design, and as one has to compulsorily follow strict laws and regulations. We shall now conclude. Over to you, Jatin.
Our conclusion: every individual is a potential resource to the society.
Article 21 of the Indian Constitution guarantees a right to life, which also means a right to quality of life, while Article 14 guarantees law is equal to all and equality before law.
Indian laws are designed to act as deterrent and punitive functions to curb the menace and consumption of prohibited drugs and substances. They are, to an extent, biased against taking a reformative stance.
Effort needs to be emphasized on the reformative acts to expand on the opportunity to improvise the lives and social reintegration of life for addicts.
Awareness initiative needs to be intensified in education institutions and communities to condition the youth to dissuade them from engaging in self-destructive habits.
A positive
Okay,
culture is
that's,
essential to curb drug addiction.
Time is up.
Ma'am, just a minute. A positive culture is essential to curb drug addiction menace while removing stigma and negative social behavior towards drug addicts, which only threaten to push them back into re-addiction.
Finally, we conclude that India needs to awaken to address the issues of its youth engaging and indulging in such destructive habits, being negatively influenced by media, peers, and need to fit in. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much for a patient hearing. Thank you.
Varsha ma'am, thank you so much. Varsha ma'am, you are next. Varsha Bhavre
Yes.
and Sapna Jaiswal. Ma'am,
Yes,
I have
yes.
given the co-host permission.
Yes, yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Okay,
and
okay.
visible.
Yes, good evening, one and all present here. Before starting my session, today as our guest, that guest speaker, that is as Justice Mrudula Bhatkar ma'am specifically said, rehabilitation is the most important in the case of drug addiction. As ma'am has rightly said, stop the crime and not addict because they are already in the prison of drug. In addition to that, or in the next version to that, I have started with my paper, which I have done with my co-author, that is Assistant Professor Sapna Jaiswal. We have started with the paper. The topic is importance of yoga and meditation in the treatment and rehabilitation of drug addict. While talking with the treatment and rehabilitation of drug addict, along with the all other therapies like behavioral therapies, medication, it is one of the most that meditation as well as yoga, these are the most important therapies which will be more helpful for the drug addict to come up from that specific trauma which they are suffering from, or as ma'am said, whatever they are in that cage, it will help them to come out from that cage also. Now there are certain factors or the causes rather we should say, what are the causes to be a normal person to a drug addict? That the first one is the individual biology. Individual biology differ from person to person. When a person started feeling more satisfaction after taking a certain quantum of a drug, it start increasing the tolerance of that person, and it is depending on the individual biology to him and its genetic reaction also. The second cause, which I would like to say, that is a family factor of that person also. That is one of the most important cause, rather we should say, when it turns from a normal person to the drug addict itself. It is one of the most important factor that the drug addiction as that instigate that person towards the use of drug. Atmosphere of the family leads the person towards the drug by way to follow the senior or the other member from the family who is always under the influence of addiction. It requires to start the positive change from first individual of that family, which promotes the next generation to keep them away from any such type of addiction. Now, the third one cause, I have just shortlisted some of the causes just due to the time constraint. Out of that, the third cause I would like to cite, that is the social environment where the person is moving around, and the social environment where the person is exposed himself can influence the drug addiction, maybe forcefully or the voluntarily. Even if there are some type of symptoms also, when a person is considering as a drug addict, there are certain symptoms which come out of from that trauma, or which come out of from that such type of a situation. The first symptom, that is, start keeping himself in isolation. When he started keeping himself in isolation, as he is in that suffering from that trauma, don't want to involve in the society, any activity in the society. Similarly, he started involving himself in the negative activities also. When he while he will be once he will become that addict over there, he will start spending more money to purchase the drug, even though he cannot afford it. And to fulfill his financial requirement, he'll start committing different type of offenses also. Even whatever the performance he's giving at his workplace, at his home, it started lacking over there also, just because of such type of isolation, as well as the addiction over there. Then the loss of a behavioral control, as the person is suffering from different type of traumas over there, whatever the behavior, whatever the things are just and unjust, is totally losing the control out of it. So this such type of a symptom, there are some symptoms which I was trying to involve over here. Similarly, when we are talking about the treatment of drug addict, the drug addiction is relapsing disease, and relapse is the return of the drug used after an attempt to stop. Drug addiction begins with a voluntary act of taking drugs, but eventually a person does not remain in a position to stop himself from taking that drug. Drug addiction is treatable, but it is not simple, because addiction is a chronic disease. Addiction treatment, even whatever the drug addict, the treatment helps the person to stop using the drug and to be active in the family and work and in the society also. There is no single treatment. As I said earlier, along with the other medicinal therapy as well as behavioral therapy, I just want to put two more therapies over there. One is the yoga and the second one is the meditation. There are various treatments for the drug addiction, like behavioral counseling, meditation, medicine, devices, applications used to treat withdrawal of symptom or delivery of skill training. Not only this, but exercise, yoga, meditation also help in the effective treatment of the drug addict action. Now, what is the importance of yoga in the treatment of drug addict? Addicted are not in a position to connect themselves physically and mentally. Yoga is an excellent way to slowly restore someone to his physical and mental sensations. Yoga has its root in India, which is form of mind-body practice, which has been proved to reduce the apparent anxiety and improving the physical and mental health of that specific addicted person. Yoga has various components such as conduct within the society, personal discipline, postures, that asana, breathing, concentration, contemplation, and meditation itself. The basic three steps, or rather basic three poses of yoga, which help that addict person to come out of from that state. There are various poses, but out of that three are basically more helpful to that addicted person to come out of from that trauma. The first one is the Vajrasana, second one is the Balasana, and the third one is the Shavasana. Similarly, when we are talking about the yoga treatment, yoga benefits in a drug addiction recovery are tremendously high in a rate. Even it is supported by the scientific studies also. It enhances the self-control of drug addicts and making them more likely to sidestep the drug and other unlawful substances. Yoga promises a better and a speedy recovery from the drug addiction. On the basis of the various scientific studies, yoga is slowly entering in the medical field as a recovery tool for the drug addicts. It is highly probable that it will become an effective tool for the individual recovering from drug abuse and the addiction. See, when we are talking about the yoga, the first part of my paper, that is yoga we have done with. Now the meditation, while talking about the meditation, how the meditation help the drug in the treatment of drug addict to come out, to help them to come out of from that system, from that cage rather we should say. Along with the yoga, meditation is very powerful and a simple technique having many health benefits. Meditation means taking a deep breath or chanting a mantra, focusing on the breath, result in increasing awareness and connections. And while doing all these things, whatever the addicted thoughts he has, addicted even symptoms he has, and whatever that thoughts coming again and again his mind, meditation helps that person to remove all those thoughts from his mind and start with a different type of a happiness in his life. There are various benefits of the meditation, like reduced depression and anxiety. As I earlier said, just because of this, that excess of anxiety leads to that addiction also. Even improve that meditation, improve the moods, increase focus, emotional stability also it gives that addicted person. Due to a great result of meditation, it has become an important part of a treatment of drug addict. Meditation helps drug addict to fight symptoms of withdrawal and reduce the risk of relapse because it comes again and again. Then why meditation is required and how meditation help to that person to come out of from this. The very first reason for the meditation is meditation stimulate and skill your brain to be happy. Basically, addicted person or the addiction mainly affecting on the most important body part of a human being, and that is brain. And meditation itself stimulating and skill the brain and to make that person happy without taking recourse and any drug and substance to feel good. Because when a person leading or person moving toward the drug, the ultimate aim is to get an happiness over there. And that meditation gives, instead of a drug, that meditation can give him, make him more skilled to handle his brain and to be more happy in his life. Doctor uses the wave to recover the addict from its addiction, and the same brain waves are created by the meditation also. Whatever the brain waves are there, it automatically replaces that therapy and it helps that addicted person to come out of from that trauma. Instead of suppressing the addictive thoughts, meditation simply step it out from the brain of addicted person. Meditation help the releasing the dopamine, which is a pleasure chemical naturally. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You have just 1 minute.
Okay. I'll just conclude it after this. With the help of addicted person to feel good, to feel healthyful. Even meditation is proven as a 6 times more effective than any other traditional therapy to help in a speedy recovery of addicted person. The main reason of addiction is the stress, anxiety, depression, anger, and etc. And meditation is basically attacking on the root cause of that specific thing. And while concluding my session, I just even a judicial contribution is also that we have seen in the earlier paper also. Just with the conclusion of this paper, I would like to say interdisciplinary approach of the treatment work more effectively for the treatment and rehabilitation of drug addict. Along with the medication and behavioral therapy, yoga and meditation should be included in the treatment of drug addict as a compulsory part of a treatment. Various treatment options are available for the drug addict, and most of the people suffering from the addiction will receive combination of approaches. Yoga and meditation both provide inner peace to the patient and help them to keep away from the thought of addiction. Thank you so much. I'm very much thankful to the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to present my paper. Thank you for the patient hearing.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, I would like our last and not the least speaker is Dr. E. Prema. Ma'am, you are ready and we have given you the co-host permission. You can start.
Yes, thank you, madam. So I especially thank Ashwini madam and also the principal sir for giving me the opportunity. Hope everyone can hear me. Yeah. So my topic would be. Yeah. My topic is on role of United Nations in illicit drug control and analysis. And I think my work is a little bit less when it is going to be it is Jatin and Vishaka. They presented very well, it is a compact thing where they were talking about international conventions and also the national policies, right? So here is where I just like to share my presentation little bit. Where it is going to be the sustainable development goals and how it is going to be one specific organization or institution under the auspices of United Nations specifically concentrates on it. And I will not say that my presentation is something which is unique or nobody had discussed, but still the dosage with the previous speakers, mine is a little bit less, but it is too very important to me. As the UN for the year 2020 just makes its slogan as better knowledge for better care for the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Traffic. And you can very well understand how this pandemic situation had just smashed down many of the trades and lives of the people, but it is only the illicit drug trade and also the relevant, people who are involved in such kind of trades belonging to each and every country, the drug dealers, they have flourished, right? There is an increase of distribution and also drug exchange between the countries. Drug trafficking had gone up. So first, I'll just like to highlight only, I'm just sticking on to only the Sustainable Development Goals and how it is going to be the United Nations taking up these Sustainable Development Goals is going to talk about the drug abuse and also illicit drug trafficking, right? So it is goal number 3, where it is going to be, it ensures healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages, right? So as we know, when it is going to be the drugs concern is, it is not about this specific age of people, but it had impacted upon many people. And of course, the previous speakers, they were very interestingly explaining how psychologically and also the statistic data, which was going to be giving a picture in which age group people are affected, everything. So very specifically, when it is going to be the younger generation and also children who just become into or become victim of this drug abuse, and the reasons, as I found the previous speakers, they were explaining how foreign nationals come here and then gain their trust and make the citizens of that particular country to become the victims. They are used for drug trafficking, and also they are becoming the drug users, which is going to be prohibited. So it is United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, right? It very recently in 2020 had full paper where it is going to be this 6 booklets which provide a lot of, it's a treasure of informations which is going to be about all these drug and also how the pandemic situation had just impacted, but it did not make the drug trafficking to reduce it, and how India is going to be going to combat with these kind of issues, right? So as I was talking about this World Drug Report 2020, and I'm not going to discuss about all these 6 booklets, but what is the aim? So it began actually in 1997, where it is going to be the United Nations Drug Control Program. It released for the first time the drug control, because all the states, even they were individually were combating against the illicit drug, trade and also or trafficking and also the abuse together, but still there was something else which is going to be required. So that is the reason it was this particular Office of Drug Control, United Nations Drug Control, had its specific functions only to control and look into it. So what is the 2030 agenda, and what will be the state's responsibility? We were just talking in this session, which I observed, how psychologically people, and also when the society is going to be affected, everything is well and good, but there is a state responsibility not only creating legislation and its effective execution of these things, but also going along with the international perspective too. And there are only not too many, but it is only 4 or 5 goals and the targets which talks about, which is too very crucial for any state to execute it, right? So I talked about goal 3, and when it is going to be very specifically goal 15, which protects, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainable managed forest. So it is under it, where it is 15.7, take urgent action in end poaching and trafficking, protected species and flora, fauna, address both demand and supply of illegal wildlife. So why it is going to be included here? Because as or when the countries have the responsibility to oblige with these obligations, formulate legislations, right? So these flora and fauna, when it is going to be the god which is going to create such kind of plants, but it is going to be used as a drug, as people are telling, when it is going to be abused, means it is for a overuse. So it's not just destroying these plants, but it is being kept for a medicinal thing. So for that reason, this goal have to be executed and properly protected by and executed by the state parties. So finally, I just will be telling this goal 17, very importantly 17.9, which talks about enhancing international support for implementing effective and targeted capacity building in developing countries to support national plans to implement all sustainable development goals, including through North-South, South-South, and triangular cooperation. Right. So this is one thing where I just want to just end my presentation, how the younger generation is going to be affected, because it is not only, as people were telling, the physical, but also it is psychological thing which is going to be going to end up if it is not going to be properly concentrated. And again, when it is going to be the national legislation concern is, I do agree that India has effective legislation and also NGOs who are involved in avoiding and also just to smash down this particular thing which is going to question the economy of a country and also destroy the life of the younger people, downtrodden and also vulnerable people, whoever it may be. But there have to be something else, because it is a right time. The nature had cautioned us, even at the COVID time, there is an increase of the drug dealings and also usage is going to be there, where we have to see how the NDPS, courts are specifically is carrying more and more cases to it. So how effective is our law enforcing mechanisms are? There comes the question where the society will be happy if at all these kind of cases are going to be not dealt in a separate court, right? Why it is a separate court? Because there is that much of abuse and impact over the society, where a specific concentration, a specific board have to be there. Still, it is not, controlled. To a certain extent, these people are doing their, effective way to control it, but still adhering with the international community, joint the cooperation with the developed nation for executing their own ideas. Because, for instance, when it is going to be USA, they have the biggest use, or when it is going to be Russia or Germany, right? They have more number of drug addicts and abuse are there, and we have to just have a joint cooperation or a program, joint operations with them. Yes,
you
ma'am,
just
I'll
have
end.
1 minute.
Yeah, I'll just end. So it is a requirement, and for achieving the sustainable development goal, for protecting the particular plants, flora and fauna which are related with the drug developments, and it is too very crucial. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the great presentation. And now we move forward to our valedictory session. As Swami Vivekananda stated, all human knowledge proceeds out of experiences. We cannot know anything except by experience. Today we heard from our experienced resource persons and expanded our horizon of knowledge. I, Assistant Professor Shruti Das, welcome you all to our virtual valedictory ceremony. Now, I would like to call upon Assistant Professor. Am I audible now? Yes. So it was, I would like to call upon Assistant Professor Seema Patil ma'am to introduce our next resource person, Advocate Umakant Mishra. Seema ma'am, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanking you, Shruti ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to introduce our today's resource person, Advocate Umakant Mishra sir. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce our next resource person, Shri Umakant Mishra sir. Sir has completed a Master of Science in Zoology and has completed his Bachelor of Law. He has also completed Diploma in Management, Postgraduate Diploma in Securities Law and Intellectual Property Rights. Sir is presently working as an advocate in Supreme Court of India and High Court in Delhi. He has a 36 years of law enforcement experience and also has a 25 years of anti-smuggling and anti-drug trafficking experience in Air Intelligence, IGI Airport, New Delhi, and Directorate of Revenue Intelligence and Narcotic Control Bureau. Sir's training experience include he designed and conducted in-house induction training programs to freshly recruited Narcotics Control Bureau officers, resource person of a training in drug law enforcement to officers in Narcotics Control Bureau, New Delhi, CBI Academy, Ghaziabad, BSF Academy, New Delhi, National Policy Academy, Hyderabad, Central Detective Training School, Ghaziabad. Sir also has an international training experience, which include training of a police officer of Vietnam in anti-drug trafficking at Ho Chi Minh City in April 2011. Sir organizing regional training program on forensic drug analysis under the Colombo Plan Drug Advisory Program on behalf of Narcotics Control Bureau in cooperation with Central Revenue Control Laboratory at New Delhi in November 2011. He has also experience as a resource person in 9th International Training Course for training Asian Drugs Law Enforcement Officer in Precursor Chemical Control in Bangkok in October 2012 and consultant to United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime in their training program for a law enforcement officer in South Asia. There are many awards and recognitions received by Sir, which include many cash rewards, awards of condemnation certificates for excellence performance on duty. Sir also got certificate of appreciation from the President of India for especially distinguished record of service. So let's us welcome to our esteemed guest speaker, Sri Umakant Mishra Sir. Welcome, Sir. I warm welcome to you, Sir. Over to you, Sir. Thanking you.
Sir, you are not audible. Umakant, sir. We are not able to hear you, sir. Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are clearly audible and visible now.
Okay, fine. Good evening to one and all. Thank you very much for a very, very high introduction, which was really not necessary. So normally good things are ended by a villain. So when you called me to give the valedictory address, I consider myself as a villain, which will end the international seminar that is going on. So even though I don't wish to be a villain, but you made me sure. So I first thank you, the organizers, to invite me. It is a privilege to be part of this international conference on procedural safeguards and immunities of drug use, drug markets in South Asian countries. So I start with thanking Honorable Justice Prakashdev Naik, Justice Mridula Bhatkar, the Prakash Sir, the Vice Chancellor, Mr. Professor Murthy, Principal, and all other distinguished guests, including Dr. Chandrika Subramaniam from Australia and Dr. Jidapat Thawarit from Bangkok and Dr. Yasin Nawaz from Pakistan. It's really very, very, very pleasurable to have all these international academicians and intellectuals here in this conference. So I also have the privilege to hear many people talk about the drugs, mainly on how to eradicate it, and some were very thought-provoking. Particularly, I wanted to find something new in the use of artificial intelligence in correcting the cognitive behavior. That is a very interesting field. So in fact, I was remembering the theory of nudging, which got the person a Nobel Prize. So that is where if we start at the school level, at the formative level, and use some kind of an artificial intelligence and design courses and all that, I think it will certainly nudge people to be away from drugs and its harmful effects. It was really a very good thing. I don't have any hesitation to agree with Dr. Chandrika when she said that the drug problem is very, very complex. A number of challenges remain unanswered. Yes, because as somebody was telling in the speaker, I remember the traditional drugs like cannabis, the opium, the cocaine have been there for thousands of years of the nations. But the problem is that every year since it progressed, thousands of new substances has coming in to spoil the field. In the traditional sense, who sometimes about mythological sense and all that, there seemed to be a voluntary control in the youth. But nowadays, it's the change of society, the commercialization of everything that is possible. So the time and the recreations and everything has been commercialized. So everybody wants instant gratification, particularly the youth. So that's where the problem comes in. I will be surprised to say that the United Nations lists more than 1,000 new psychoactive substances, meaning that they are not under the legal net. And somebody was referring to a universal jurisdiction as a kind of a solution. It is so, it is there, because as the nations developed together, the Committee of Nations developed together, and the United Nations brought in many countries together for fighting universal problems. So that is where these conventions, 61, 71, 1988 conventions, they come into being. It enjoins all the countries to take universal action. We all understand that over the years, say in the last 6-7 decades, the perception of security and the perception of sustainable development. My last speaker, Dr. Prema, he spoke about sustainable development. So the concept of security and the sustainable development has vastly changed over the years. It's like imagine a balloon concept. Your 2-year son or a daughter playing with a big balloon. Everybody's face is lit up with smile, and the 4-year-old daughter is wearing a hairpin, and the balloon goes and scrapes over that hairpin, and the balloon either gusses out, whoosh, or bursts, and the child's joy goes out. That is the balloon concept of security. You call it health, you call it earlier the security meant only foreign enemy, but now it means both the external and internal issues. It is hunger, it is health, it is education, it is internal security, it is external aggression. Name anything which affects the person or the community or the society or the nations. It's important. Something like that in sustainable development perception. Everything is enfolded into that sustainability. So unless and until at the personal level, individual level, at the community level, at the social level, at the regional level, all efforts are put together, the fight against drugs will not succeed. We all know some speakers also referred to zero tolerance policy. Everybody is following, right? Since the forerunner of this is US, which started it all in the early 80s. But still, we have not been able to counter drugs. Let me frankly admit, there is no respite. There is no reduction in the number of the addicts, the variety of fear, the pattern, the trends, everything shows that it has not been effective. So what we require is a 360-degree effort. It should start from every person, every stakeholder. He must contribute his bit. So that is where the law comes in. Here we are a law institution conducting this international conference, and the topic is procedural safeguards and immunities. So I have been hearing to some speakers when I joined in and all that. So I will just touch briefly about the procedural safeguards of the Indian situation which we have in the NDPS Act, because After all, speaking, as I told you, it is basically based on the universal action suggested by the committee, the conventions, the international conventions. So there is nothing new. When we talk about South Asia, we feel that whatever it is dominated by the Indian plateau, the Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and all these things, they all have kind of almost a similar law. I think I will segregate Bhutan. Bhutan is the most happiest country with very little drug problem. And the other beautiful thing about Bhutan you will find is they find the penalty structure. It is linked to the minimum wages earned by the criminal. I found that is something very, very endearing. Rest of all, India, Australia, $2,200, $3,000, India, 1 lakh rupees, 2 lakh rupees, all these things are, so Bhutan is only one country I find in South Asia which pegs the fine to the earning of the minimum wages. So talking about drug problem, everywhere we use the drug market. I think it is a very, very ephemeral term, drug market nowadays with the advent of the internet, the online marketplaces. So the sense of a physical concept of a market has gone away. Rather, because the drug trafficking is a very, very considered universally as a very kind of a crime against humanity and the harshest punishment possible and all that, everybody is moving into a disassociative behavior. Internet, darknet, deep web, and the couriers, postals, and everything where the possession part can be easily distanced. You see, in every law, possession is the strongest evidence possible against the criminal. Once you are away from the possession, you can find out so many reasons to give an alibi or why the law will not apply to you, or so forth, so on and so forth. That is the only reason why you will find that though NDPS Act in India defines illicit traffic, in the offense and penalty section, you will not find illicit traffic, the reference to it. It itemizes various provisions that is mentioned in that definition, 2AB. So talking about safeguards, you see, law, basically we are talking about the rule of law. If we are a democracy, we must be governed by rule of law. Rule of law, when we talk about rule of law as students, there are 3 pillars: executive, judiciary, and legislative branch. So the law acknowledges a problem and tries to modulate the individual or an entity's behavior towards that particular area so that it doesn't happen. A criminal law particularly will criminalize certain activity, prescribe offense and penalties, create a efficient structure. So, and many speakers are aware, and as a law student, you should be aware that there are 5 aims of any law. Starts with the deterrence, it should be retributive, it should be preventive, it should be reformative, and of course, it must encourage rehabilitation of criminals. While it fights crime, it must rehabilitate criminals as productive members of the society. I also found some people were wondering while taking out the statistics, there are so many n number of million people between 15 to 64 age group are suffering from addiction and all that. That group is important, 15 to 64. That is the reproductive band of a person. India is praised because it's relatively younger population. 50% average age is 28 to 38. That is a very good thing because of this. 15 to 64 is the reproductive age, but you delete that re. Consider that as a productive and reproductive age. So that is where the beauty comes in. So if you are a very, very dominating in numbers of productive and reproductive people, then you have so much more resources. And if those resources are effectively channelized, then you have a superb country. Even you are a power. We should not get into who is number 1, who is number 2, who is number 3. Because in the Committee of Nations, there is brotherhood and there is good neighborliness, and we must come together to fight our own common problems and prosper together. That is where the peace will come in. So coming to the safeguards portion, I think very few speakers have touched upon the safeguard part of the law of NDPS Act. Particularly, I will refer in the Indian context to the NDPS Act, because law has a very difficult areas to treat apart. It must balance. You see, whenever you go to a court and whenever the judge, the honorable judge hears both sides, you will always find it will be his sincere endeavor to balance, to bring a sense of equity in his judgment, which it must benefit both the sides to some extent within that parameter of law. So it must balance between criminal and the addiction. It must balance between the individual and society. It must balance between the law enforcement officer and the criminal. It must balance between the fundamental right and the legal right that individuals got and that the law enforcement officers get under that particular statute. And it must also provision for retributive or deterrence aspect, or it must balance between the two, and it must have some kind of a rehabilitation provisions there. I must say NDPS Act is a very wonderful legislation which has evolved from a baby in 1985 to a kind of a nice, handsome young man now. The safeguards available basically is when an officer goes and exercises his power. As a law student, you know the single most fundamental initiating trigger is reason to believe to exercise your power. That reason to believe is a fundamental cornerstone of all criminal law, which the authority must exercise. The NDPS Act tries to balance this invasion into the constitutional provisions of privacy and all other freedom, fundamental rights and all that by enclosing sufficient provisions, which is enshrined in section 42, that reason to believe. And if you have an information, if you have personal knowledge, it's okay. But if somebody is giving you information, you must record it in writing. You must inform it to your immediate official superior within 72 hours. Coming to the other provision also, you will find the 42 second proviso is if you are going, you are exercising your power to search, seize and arrest, nobody is there to assist you, nobody is there to help you, or open the door, ensure your entry for exercising your function, you can break open the door. The law gives you that power, but you must record it in writing why you are breaking open the door. And all this must be happening before two independent witnesses of that particular locality, which also is enshrined in Code of Criminal Procedures. So that local respectable two independent witnesses also issues a safeguard of the fundamental rights of the citizen. Or when it goes to say a female must be searched by a female, okay, that is a safeguard of the against the official's arbitrariness or excessive behavior. You see, power corrupts absolutely. There are so many instances. But these are the same, because once the law says that this invasion into the fundamental rights is necessary, it will prescribe certain procedures to safeguard that particular right. So unless and until these conditions are there, you cannot invade into the others' privacy or others any kind of fundamental rights. So this is a kind of balancing. Now coming to these are called mandatory procedures. The court has evolved that whatever procedures are called, these are doctrine of mandatory compliances. Now, like that, section 50, again, is a safeguard procedure. When the officer interrogates or when officer catches somebody, arrests somebody, he must, when tries to do his personal search, he must inform him that he has a right to be taken to a magistrate or a gazetted officer. And that gazetted officer must not be part of that raiding team. So these are the procedural safeguards. Now, some kind of a some whistleblower or informer comes and tells you that yes, there is something going on. So nobody can compel from where that information has come. It's in section 68 says you can't, even the court cannot enforce to ask you where you get the information. These are the safeguards which are enshrined in the NDPS Act. We are talking about power and all that. There are so many, so we are not talking about powers here. We are talking about safeguards. But what other safeguards are there for the drug problem as well? Because drug is a kind of a very complex situation where the nature of stakeholders are different. Stakeholder may be a government of the same country. Stakeholder may be the governments and people of other countries. Stakeholder may be the criminal or the businessman who is indulging in to get all the profits and all that. And stakeholder is a addict, the victim. You see, you must understand the narcotics law is facing a lot of difficulties because in a typical crime scene, there is a perpetrator, there is a victim. So if you steal my money, I simply go to the police and I say that this fellow has stolen my money and all that. I will go and I will give evidence against him. But in case of the narcotics crime, the victim itself is a perpetrator. So the victim itself is a criminal. So normally what happens is that he doesn't go forward. Even if you give them treatment in the correctional institution and all that, they will think twice before telling you what kind of, who supplied to them, where did he is getting a regular supply from and all that. So this situation has to change. There are so many different parameters of taking this drug situation, having different perspectives, that it becomes very difficult to kind of get that zero tolerance. Because somewhere or the other there will be a leak, or somewhere or the other there will be lack of coordination, or maybe one side is strong, the other side is weak, so it is not going to help. Basically, it should be a 360-degree. There are many, like somebody was referring to the burden of proof and all that. That is the law, the balances to give power to the officer, because the narcotics activities, these trafficking activities are so secretive, so profitable, and so everything that the investigation sometimes turns a wall, a very, very strong wall. So that is many different kind of a presumption you will find. Many different presumptions you will find. You will find in section 35, you will find in section 53A, you will find in 54, you will find in 66. These are the presumptions which allow the officer at least to find a reasonable kind of evidence, because you always remember for the prosecution, the standard of proof is beyond reasonable doubt. But for the other party, the defense, if he proves his case beyond preponderance of probability, he creates a benefit of doubt, he gets the benefit of doubt and gets acquittal. So prosecution is very hard pressed. That is why all these presumptions and all these tools are given. Even you will find the Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act gives a power for a tool of controlled delivery. Controlled delivery is where you tamper, where you officially, legally tamper with the package and let it go. Even after detecting and all that, let it go like that, or after substituting that package, it will go to the destination, and then the investigation takes over as a backtrack investigation. Why? I refer to you the preference of the traffickers to dissociative way of trafficking, internet, courier, mail, and all that. So everybody wants to be away from possession so that they can't be caught. The other important, the twin subject is immunity. Immunity as a tool and immunity as a rehabilitation prospect, as a consideration, as a difference, balancing between the criminal and the addict. One speaker suggested a treatment between 27 and 64A. I think he or she, I don't remember, she was very dissatisfied and comparing 27 with 64A. 27 is about consumption of drugs, and 64A is giving immunity to an addict. There is a hell of a difference. You must understand that what 27 does is criminalizes consumption. It doesn't speak about addict. While 64A, while giving immunity, also only talks about addict. So there is a difference. 27 talks about any person who consumes, but 64A gives immunity to an addict. So evidence has to, if it is the case is in the court as a law student, if the case is in court, the defense must first adduce evidence that he is an addict to get that benefit. The immunity happens at two levels. One at the central government level under 64A, and the other is at the court level, judiciary level under section 39 that nobody notices. But section 39 also gives a kind of immunity where it appears to the judge that he is an addict and he can go to the correctional institution. So on execution of a bond, he can also give that immunity to that. So there is a two ways. There is a softer treatment for the addict. That is the safeguard you have for the addict. That is the rehabilitation measure you have for the addict. Forget about the National Fund for Drug Abuse Control and all that. There are specific funds created. But the statutory mechanism that you have in the Act is that. Coming to the other immunity, that is under 64, that is very, very significant. That immunity is again, like we talked about presumptions under 4 sections under the NDPS Act. 64 is a tool, investigative tool, taking at the clandestine and secretive nature of the drug trafficking operations where evidence gathering is very, very difficult. The tool of immunity is used. If somebody inside can give you full evidence, true and full disclosure of all the elements of operation and all that, and give you evidence, you will give immunity. The central government will give immunity to him only for the purpose of getting evidence against the true kingpins. I will refer to a very, very, very beautiful example which happened in Maharashtra. IPS officer Saji Mohan was caught in Bombay by ATS in 2009 with 30 kilos of heroin, which was pilfered from the NCB godown while he was zonal director of one of the regional units. He was trying to sell it to the drug trafficker Narang, Vicky Narang. Afterwards, it came to light that he has already pilfered more than that. So 2 cases were lodged against him. In one case, he got 13 or 14 years. In another case, he got 15 years of imprisonment. How? Vicky Narang turned approver and gave all the evidence which was sufficient to name him. So imagine the immunity does. What happens? The officer who was entrusted to keep the drug trafficking in check is behind bars instead of the actual trafficker. You see, that is the power of the law, the safeguard. What is the safeguard against the officers? So law balances against the trafficker and a rogue officer. What is that balance? What is that safeguard? One safeguard I told you, the information's identity is protected. Second is when you come to 58 and 59, section 58 and 59. It is, if you make as an officer very undue exercise of power, arbitrary, excessive, vexatious search, arrest and all that, you can be proceeded against. If an informer gives you false information and causes that arrest, he can go 2 years jail. If as a narcotics officer, you see another beautiful thing about narcotic drugs, Psychotropic Substance Act is, it enjoins duties statutorily. If you go to section 46, 47, 56, specific duties, statutory duties have been cast upon the cultivator, the village revenue and land officers. Section 56 obligates all the departments, once they are requisitioned to assist in drug trafficking measures, they must. Otherwise, that is punishable. So these balancing acts are there, makes it beautiful. You talk about use of drugs in the schools, colleges, and all that. You go to 31B, section 31B clearly says enhanced punishment and the factors which will invite those enhanced punishment. What are these? If you use violence as a narcotics officer, many times whenever we go to raid, we have faced violence. We faced beatings. Someplace we have to come back. So all these situations are taken care of. If you use violence, if you engage minors, if you traffic drugs near or in the near the vicinity of schools or correctional institutions or lady shelter homes, or if you are an officer entrusted but you don't do anything, you again engage in those activities, or if you are a member of a syndicate, organized crime. So all these will attract greater punishments. The law, I tell you, the law has evolved. Why I tell you it was a baby and it is evolved in a handsome young man. In 1985, even the judges did not have any discretion. Any quantity, minimum 10 years jail. So that was how the 2001 amendment came into being, bringing in the concept of gradient quantity, small quantity, commercial quantity. So the only purpose is to differentiate between the big fish and the small fish, between the peddlers and the addict. That is where the situation comes in, difference between 27 and 64A. Those are the nuances that NDPS Act has the safeguard dealing with every situation. Asset seizure forfeiture, talk about that. Huge profits. So now everything will go. Asset seizure, everything will go. Again, law faced a problem. The nexus, whenever these particular provisions were enforced, the judiciary created a problem talking about nexus between the crime and the proceeds arising therefrom. But later on, the law brought in a concept of equivalence. Illegally acquired property or equivalent value, equivalent thereof. That equivalent value is also a concept to neutralize the profit of the traffickers. You have preventive detention laws. You can send any people for 1 year, or if it is a highly vulnerable traffic, you can send him for 2 years. Highly vulnerable to everybody knows there are interestingly, one of the speakers referred that boat owners and construction workers somewhere giving drugs to laborers so that their productive output will be more. In fact, when we are talking about traditional uses of the drugs, either they are spiritual or recreational or this performance enhancing. It is only the laborers who took cannabis and all those they used to take. But now forget about the spiritual, forget about this, that, everything is taking a recreational way. That is the starker version of the drug addiction. So all these things, the NDPS Act. So where does these law students come in? Where does this legal fraternity, legal luminaries, and of course the judicial delivery system which we are part of, they come in? They have to enrich the law. Somebody talking about the suicide, Mr. Jayant IPS was talking about celebrity suicide, about Sushant Singh Rajput case and the whole of Bollywood, whichever is going on, the ongoing operations of NCB and all that. It is not only Bollywood, every section of the society is involved, some way or the other, because they are either tacit supporters, or they are either the tolerance level is increased, or they can't do anything, thinking that they can't do anything, and the enforcement officers are again limited by their availability of information, availability of resources, and
Umakant sir has got disconnected. Yes, Umakant sir got disconnected for some technical reasons, maybe. Sir, you are visible. You are not audible. Umakant sir? Umakant sir, your audio system has not been connected. Sir, you are not audible, sir, to us. Sir, your audio is not audible. Your audio is not connected only.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I am very sorry. I regret the inconvenience caused to everybody because my power went up and with that my internet. Shall I continue or? Shall I continue?
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to everyone for the break. So continuing the discussion. So now coming about the drug market, you see, we have talked enough about the NDPS Act and the safeguards and everything mentioned therein. And it is definitely evolve, it will evolve more. And we were on the topic of this celebrity suicide and the subsequent investigations and all that. And as law students, you must be aware that recently Section 27A of the NDPS Act has been discussed in quite terms because it appears that Bollywood itself became very afraid of 27A. So what is 27A? 27A is about financing illicit trade. And the dichotomy is, you see, the NDPS Act has penalized, criminalized all the three stages: the commission of the offense, attempt, and preparation. All these three stages. And there are different elements involved in those offenses, which again is defined under illicit traffic there, and also the offense and penalties chapter in the NDPS Act. You are also aware that the drugs recovered are of small quantity. So now, if drugs recovered of small quantity, then the punishment is something else. Punishment is 1 year, say. But when you invoke Section 27A, the punishment becomes 10 years. That is why it is raising a lot of concern. And here, the legal students or the academicians and everything should research that there is some fundamental disparities in different provisions. You see, when we talk about the conspiracy, the abatement clauses and all that, the normal principle is that it will invite that punishment which is reserved for the principal offense. Now, if the principal offense is small quantity, but if you invoke 27A, how the disparity will be there? In other small quantity offenses, it will be 1 year, but once you invoke that financing clause, the person will go for 10 years. Like that, there are many in asset seizure and forfeiture. When you go to Section 8A, which is about convert, conceal, disguise the nature of the property to hide from the nature of the criminal proceeds and all that, there is a punishment provided for that. But when you go to the asset seizure and forfeiture, there is a section which also prescribes a punishment, but there is a difference. In one, there is a maximum of 5 years, in the other, there is a maximum of 3 years. So all these things, basically, the law also gives professional opportunity to lawyers, legal students, legal nominees, and all that. The whole idea of a criminal or an innocent person going to a lawyer is this: he will understand the nuance and the varieties of legal provisions and all that, and then use it to his client's advantage. So Dr. Prema was talking about the United Nations Sustainable Development. We were talking about knowledge for better the addiction things. So knowledge about law or other provisions are very, very essential, not only to enforce it, but to use it in the way the law intends. Unless you understand it, the intent and the purpose of the law will be different. So the question is to vigorously study and find the nuances, and also contribute in every which way which will make the objective and the purpose of the law meaningful, at the same time sustaining your profession. I'm not talking about drug markets and all that, because in the present scenario, all the world is a drug market. Wherever there is a consumer, it is a market. because with the invent of net, everything is being customized. So the information will come to your doorstep at the click of a button. Then you will receive through dissociative methods of courier or concealed identity packages or concealed identity persons or everything which will be used to anonymize. So that is the beauty of the darknet. It anonymizes. So I think I have overshot the time. Now I will stop it. I will conclude my valedictory address, and I will thank everybody who has participated in the meeting and presented their papers. And I also am very grateful to the institution which has given me this privilege to speak to you. And I hope that in future also the same thing will be continued with more seminal papers, with more thought-provoking papers. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a great inaugural valedictory address. Sir, now I take this opportunity to give all the audience a glimpse of the knowledge acquired on this one-day international conference on procedural safeguards and immunities of drug use and drug markets in South Asian countries. Now, first of all, the conference started with the inaugural address by Justice Prakash Deo Naik, and Sir talked about legal provisions for narcotics abuse in India and penal provisions with respect to drugs. And our second speaker, our first resource person was Dr. Chandrima Subramaniam, and ma'am spoke about legal paraphernalia of federal and state laws related to drugs in Australia. She also spoke about the reasons of the drugs. She emphasized on criticism of the laws and the limitation in the laws provided in Australia. And our second speaker was Dr. Jidappa Thavarit, who made us aware of the legal scenario of Thailand and drug treatment and rehabilitation plan as their national plan in 2005. She talked about the golden triangle of Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand, where illegal use of drugs is exorbitant. She also spoke about the ways of amendment of the laws. Our third speaker was Dr. A. Ramakrishnan, who talked about the Drug Control Authority, drug law enforcement, and provided glimpses on the NDPS and its recent amendments. Sir also discussed about the DDC discussion about formation of NCPCR 2021. Our fourth speaker for the day was Shri Jayant Nayak Nawase, who covered various aspects of drug abuse. Sir made us conscious about the law enforcement's perspectives and provided information from Narcotics Control Bureau. Our fifth speaker was Dr. Bhanu Prakash. Sir gave a very unique perspective to drug abuse, that is artificial intelligence perspective. Sir provided a multidimensional approach on uses of drugs. Sir also talked about NDPS Act and drugs and cosmetics, sir. Sorry for the technical glitch. Sir also threw some light on types of drugs abuse by different substances and how the drugs which are misused can be later on used for different treatment of diseases. Now the valedictory address has been given wonderfully by Advocate Umakant Mishra. Sir has given a unique angle to our discussion, and Sir has actually talked about the balancing act and safeguards provided in NDPS Act for law enforcement, and at the same point of time, Sir has provided a safeguard of fundamental rights of individuals. He explained how normal crime is different from narcotics crimes because perpetrator is the victim And in cases of narcotic crime, that makes narcotic crimes very unique in its own nature. Now, I would like to, now it was a great experience for all of us, and I am very sure we have gained a lot from this one-day international conference. Now, at the very end of our knowledge discourse, I request my friend and colleague, Assistant Professor Arundhati Bhale ma'am, for vote of thanks. Arundhati ma'am, you're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Arundhati ma'am, you are not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shruti ma'am. Good afternoon to everyone, dignitaries, invitees, participants, and dear students. I am feeling honored to get this opportunity to conclude the first one-day online international conference on procedural safeguards and immunities of drug use and drug market in South Asian countries. Certainly, the entire day was enlightening and very useful. We all got opportunity to make ourselves aware regarding procedural safeguards of drug use and drug market in South Asia. But organizing conference is a challenging task. It cannot be possible without a great preparation, wise working hands, and support from every corner, and blessings. Now it's time to convey our gratitude to all who have extended their support to make this event successful. At the outset, on behalf of organizing committee, I would like to express my profound gratitude to our respected Chancellor and patron of today's conference, Dr. Deepak Tilak sir, for his exceptional leadership, guidance, and motivation. I would like to record our deep sense of gratitude to Vice Chancellor and patron of today's conference, Professor Dr. Geetali Tilak ma'am, for her motivational and dynamic leadership. Thank you, ma'am, for shaping us so well. I am very happy to offer my sincere thanks to our Dean Law Department TMV, Advocate Harshad Nimbalkar sir. On behalf of organizing committee, my sincere thanks goes to the head of the department and chairperson of today's conference, Professor Dr. K.K. Sri Ramachandramurthy sir, for their wise mentorship and encouragement. Sir, you are always ready to listen us and immediately solve our problem whenever we approach to you. My sincere thanks to Dr. Prakash Deshmukh sir, Principal, Law Department TMV, Kharghar, and Assistant Professor Dr. Gauri Kala ma'am for helping in organizing today's conference. Dear all, my words may not be capable to express our sense of gratitude to valedictory session guest of honor, Advocate Umakant Mishra sir from Delhi. and our honorable speaker, Dr. K. Bhanu Prakash sir from Andhra Pradesh. Along with K. Bhanu Prakash sir, Dr. A. Ramakishan sir from Kolkata. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us and adjusting time from your busy schedule. Ma'am from Australia. Dr. Jidapa Thawarit ma'am from Thailand. Thank you for sharing your research and knowledge with us. I believe this conference has opened a new dimension and our association will go to long way. Let me express my deep gratitude to our chief guest, Honorable Justice Prakash Dev Naik Sir, Justice Bombay High Court, for taking time from his busy schedule and be with us here today. I thank you, our plenary session speaker, Shri Jayant Naik Naure sir, who is from Mumbai. I take this opportunity to thank all the reviewer and technical team member for their valuable remark in time, which helped to improve the quality of the paper of conference. I also thank all the author who has presented their paper in the conference. And I thank all the author who has submitted their paper also. I'm thankful to
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It was very nice. So authoritative, yeah. So well said according to the role given to me.
So my villain joke was good.
बहुत अच्छा। Giving you tea there.
कौन है?
sorry for inconvenience. I thank online media platform for their active support. Though in last, but special thanks to all the student volunteers who have worked hard selflessly. At the end, I bring sincerely apology to those who have directly and indirectly helped us, and I forgot unwillingly to take their names. Hope we meet in our next event soon. I would like to take the opportunity to seek sincere apologies for the technical glitches that took place during the conference and thank each one of you to be patient participant throughout the day. Thanks for your support. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Everyone kindly go through the link which I have just sent right now in the chat box. Just fill up the feedback form. Thank you all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. I forgot to thank Madam Gauri Kala.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wonderful conference. I wish you many more.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
बाद में